Hey everybody, Kevin here from the My Song of the Day Rock 2000 to Today YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be reviewing the 6th studio album release from one of my favorite bands of all time, so let's get into it. This is my review of New Empire Volume 1 by Hollywood Undead. So for those of you who do not know how these album reviews work or just plumb forgot about it or it's your first time here, let me give you a rundown. First, I'm going to go through a little bit of a background on the band up to New Empire, so we are pretty much on the same page, so we kind of have an understanding. Then I'll review the album on 3 specific categories. The first will be composition, construction, instrumentation of the song in the album. Then I'll review the vocal performances of the album because, you know, there are 5 different guys with vocals on this track plus a couple of features, so yeah, we're going to have to go into those. And then I'll be talking about how the themes and the stylings of those songs relate to each other and how they work out together. Then I'm going to give New Empire Volume 1 a rating on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 being, you know, hit by a train, and 10 being the opposite of being hit by a train. And then I'll summarize what I liked, what I disliked, and then the overall why I gave it the rating that I was going to give it. So enough with that. Let's get into it. So hit me with the transition. Get it on. So giving you a background on the band and why I like the band so much, I first saw them back, I believe, in 2012 at Summerfest here in Milwaukee, where my friends were basically dragging me to go see the show, and I'm like, I'm not really sure if I want to go see it, so I went with them, and during the show, I'm like, I had a blast because this rap rock sound they had, I thought was fantastic, and this is just when they had Swan Songs and American Tragedy out. Now, I had heard them come out with, you know, Everywhere I Go right at the end of their first set. I'm like, oh my god, this is this band, and I was hooked straight away. I saw them in 2013 and 2014 at Summerfest, and then I saw them in 2017 at the Rave in Milwaukee as well. So I've seen them about 4 times total, and I've had a great time seeing them every single time. They're one of my favorite bands, and I get to see them this year in 2020 in Milwaukee on May 12th at the Rave, so I'm excited for that. So their most previous full-length album release, which is 5 or V, came out back in October 27th, 2017. And I was excited for this one to come out because the lead single, California Dreamin', which dropped in July of that year, I absolutely loved because it combined the energy, the rawness, and the tenacity that the first 2 albums had, and it had the themes and really kind of just that flow that the third album had, which I absolutely love. Now, AllMusic gave this album a rating of a 5 out of 10, and I have to say I do agree with that because there are some songs on where I'm like, you know what, this is really well done and I really like what they did here. A song like California Dreamin' where it's just raw, tenacious, and has that great Hollywood Undead sound. Then you look at songs like We Own the Night and Your Life where they're harder, they have a little bit more of a darker tone to them, but they really do work well. Then there are some songs on that really got me worried on that one because they went incredibly soft. They tried to let Danny really just show as a vocalist, which, you know, is okay, but those songs are incredibly weak and really took away from Hollywood Undead style. Songs like Bad Moon, Ghost Beach, and Nobody's Watching were some of the worst songs on the album in my opinion, to the point where I'm like, what's going on with Hollywood Undead here? Is something up or what's going on? Now, the band also released their Psalms EP, which came out back on November 2nd, 2018. Now, this one, I'm a little bit half and half on, because there are songs that I really didn't like, such as Live Fast, Die Young, and Another Level. I just thought they were very bland, and I'm like, yeah, they're definitely coming out in an EP. But then you get a song like Bloody Nose, where they end up playing around with the keyboards a lot more, and it really has that Day of the Dead album style feel, which I really like. Gotta Let Go is the clear winner on this track, where it has the guys from Iowa, where it has Johnny 3 Tears reflecting on the life that he had before, and kind of like, you know, as a child growing up, and if he could go back, what he would say to his, you know, younger self and, you know, guide him. And then you see Charlie in there as well, where he's talking to his older self and be like, you know, what would I ask him? What would the future hold for me, kind of thing. So it's always taking a look at, you know, the past and the future, and not really letting yourself be in the present, and something that you gotta let go of and really live yourself in the present. And when this song came out, it was something that I really desperately needed, because I was holding on to the past way too much with my depression, with trying to get over an ex, and I just was holding on to it so much, and this song kind of helped propel me, like, you know what, you just gotta let go. It was the perfect song to come out at this time, and I absolutely love it, and I still listen to it to this day. Now, coming into New Empire, I was rather curious and a little little bit concerned going into this one, including Johnny Three Tears, who came out and said that they were going to take a little bit of a different approach to try and take their old sound and mold it into a new Hollywood Undead sound. And when I listened to a couple of the singles, I'm like, let's see if this works, because I'm not entirely sure. Plus, taking a look at what they did on V as well, I'm like, you know what? You're working with some of these softer sounds, some of these harder sounds, not really sure where you're going, and I'm getting a little nervous that this could end up very much like how I thought Who Do You Trust by Papa Roach ended up back at the end, or beginning of 2019, I should say, and how Green Day's Father of All has ended up already. So, enough with that. Let's get into New Empire Volume 1. So taking a look at the construction, composition, instrumentation on this album, I was looking at it, I'm like, you know what? We have to remember that Hollywood Undead is taking a lot of their older sounds from Swan Songs, American Tragedy, Notes from the Underground, Day of the Dead, and Five, and trying to evolve it and create a whole entire new sound off it. So it's not a total reimagining, but it's more of an evolution. So I'm like, okay, let's see. Is this going to work? Is this not going to work? I got to take a look at some of the places where this did work specifically. Heart of a Champion is one of those songs where this works out incredibly, because instrumentation, construction-wise, I really like what they did here, because the intro has this very hard and ominous feel to it, and there is some electronica in there as well that gives a much more ominous vibe overall. So you're like, okay, something's really going on here. Halfway through the intro though, that's where the guitar hits, and you just get this classic, steady, heavy Hollywood Undead rapid pace style, and I am all here for it. And the rest of the way, it does have that kind of sound where it'd be like something that was more rapid pace on something like Notes from the Underground or Day of the Dead. So they really evolved it here instrumentally, and I thought that that was a very smart move and a very good job for this song specifically. Another song that really stands out on this album, instrumentally, construction-wise, and composition-wise, is the song Enemy. Now, instrumentally, this is very similar to what you would have heard on something like California Dreamin' if it evolved. And the instrumentation, it's rapid, it's hard, and it just stays consistent throughout the whole entire thing. When you listen to the drum, it's got a lot of double kicks in there, a lot of hard crashing sounds, but it's very fast, very rapid, and especially when the vocals need to be prominent, it ends up taking a step back overall, so let those vocals shine. And I'm like, you know what, this is absolutely perfect. I absolutely love it because it doesn't overpower at this point. The guitar work also follows suit with the drumming as well, where it hits hard, it hits fast, it hits rapid, and is that classic Hollywood Undead construction. And I'm like, you know what? I am all here for it, because they really kind of take that sound and really mold it around and evolve that California Dreamin' sound. Now, the breakdown in this was something that I am floored over, because when I first heard it, I thought of Popular Monster by Falling in Reverse, where that breakdown just completely took over the song and just made it something utterly fantastic. And the breakdown on Enemy does the exact same thing. It just amps up the song overall to where when it comes to Hollywood Undead and construction instrumentation wise, this is fantastic and classic Hollywood Undead. Another interesting selection on this album was the song Nightmare, because it has a much softer drum back and more ominous, more produced feel to it, but it's really a lot less instrumentation and construction wise. Now, overall, I wasn't the biggest fan of it until after I really went deep dive into the song and looked at how it played off with everything. And I'll get to that in a little bit when I talk about the themes and meanings and styles and how they kind of intersect, because this did something like they were going to go off for that softer style, like Notes from the Underground, and evolve it. I really love Notes from the Underground, so I don't think this nearly gets up to that level, but I do respect what they went there, so I do enjoy it and how it works with the underlying themes and meanings, which we'll get to later. Oh yeah. The biggest issue when it comes to construction instrumentation I had on New Empire's volume was the excessive use of auto-tune and that electronic pump-up style in a lot of these tracks. And I can see where they were kind of going with it, because they have used those in the past and they have used those to great extent and to great success. However, on a couple of songs here, they really heavily went into it, and I think they did that to really bring in a larger audience, and I really don't think it worked on this album overall. Take a look at a song like Empire, where construction-wise, this has electronic and overproduced written all over it, because the band does focus on a harder sound and really tries to bring that in, but with how overproduced it is, it really doesn't let anything of those drums or those guitars really shine. It just overpowers everything, including the vocals, and it just doesn't sit well with me overall. It really seems like it was a huge misstep for the band to really pull that in together. Again, I don't mind when they do that and do it sparingly, but when they go in and go full force into it like this, it doesn't work out. Now, Killing It is probably the song that really just sticks in me the most, because it sounds like they really went with more of like a dubstep vibe and just had the vocals over that. And I gotta say, it's way overproduced. It just doesn't sit well at all. And let's leave dubstep back in 2011. They did this a couple of times in the album, but those two are the worst offenders. And when they really overdid it, I thought, you know what, this really isn't where Hollywood Undead shines on this album. When they kind of went with the more that classic Hollywood Undead instrumentation, when they bring it in a little bit, but they focus more in on that hard, rapid instrumentation style, that's what really shines through here. Alright, it's time for us to go through the vocal performances on this album, and because each member of Hollywood Undead has vocals in this album, we're going to go through each one by one because I feel like that's the best way to go about it. I'm going to start with Johnny Three Tears on this one, and I looked at him as the most consistent performer on this album. What I mean by that is because he has this rougher style compared to the other guys. It's a little bit more lower tone, rougher, grittier, and he didn't really change it up anyway throughout the album, where you're going to get the exact same Johnny Three Tears throughout the whole entire thing, but when he brings it in, I really thought he did a great job on it. Stuff like Heart of a Champion with his verses, especially mixed with Charlie's, which I'll go through in a little bit. Empire, he actually does a good job on this one himself. Enemy, he doesn't necessarily isn't the standout guy on this one, but his consistency just shines through here. And the personal rapping he does on Nightmare, where it's a little bit more drawn back, like Gotta Let Go, but a little bit grittier, but really shines through with how personal and emotional he gets. Absolutely love it. Now we're going to move to Charlie Scene, and Charlie Scene was a rather bright spot on this record in comparison to the vocalist because, well, a lot of them are bright spots, but this one really stood out to me. He went through a lot of different styles on his vocals to where he started out on the album, especially on Heart of a Champion, to where the bridge that he went through was just raw, emotional, rough, and just angry, and I absolutely loved it. Take a look at a song like Enemy, where he was just that consistent Charlie Scene that we've seen throughout the years with Hollywood Undead on something like Hear Me Now or Day of the Dead, and really brought it to the forefront. He wasn't the biggest standout on that track, but it was well deserved. And then take a look at Nightmare as well, where that personal, deeper, more emotional rapping style really shines through, and I thought Charlie Scene did a great job on this one. Now we're going to take a look at Danny, who usually does a lot of these choruses and has the higher pitch sound. And there are parts with Danny's vocals on this one where there are some highlights and there are some lowlights. So we're going to go through the highlights. On Enemy, he keeps a higher pitch sound that's really contrasting with the other four guys, especially in the chorus. And that song just blasts you. It is the perfect song, and he really goes with a similar style they did on California Dreamin' on that one, and it works out perfectly. Upside Down is the song where they really let Danny's vocals just shine as he belts them out, and I think it's a really great move. However, I do think those vocals and how great they are amplified by the guest feature on Upside Down, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And Already Dead, yes, he kind of has this cleaner sound. It's a little bit, different, and it's, a little bit, simpler, so it's not that big of a standout. But with J-Dog on that chorus as well with the unclean vocals, just the mixture of those two really works out. Now the lowlights, a song like Nightmare is, I've talked about it with the other guys. This one for Danny's vocals is just because it's such an emotional, heavy song. I thought Danny's vocals to really pop with that higher pitch sound would really work out, but he just kind of kept it real simple, real low, and it just didn't work out on that track. It didn't mix well in my opinion. And Empire as well, because he keeps it so simple with the electronica, it just doesn't mix well at all. So with Danny, you get some highlights, you get some lowlights. Let's go to Funny Man. I gotta say with Funny Man, especially on those verses, he was so consistently great every time he hit a verse. Not a chorus, but a verse. And what I mean by that is, like, if I was listening to it, I thought that he was fantastic. Sure, he wasn't the highlight every single song because maybe someone overshadowed him, but he was just so consistently great on those, bringing in some, cleaner vocals, some uncleaner vocals, and just really putting out there. Listen to his work on Time Bomb and Enemy, and it really shows here. However, I don't think he gets enough time here overall because, you know what? He's not featured on all that many songs, but when he is, he shines through, except for Killing It, because that chorus where he just yelling, killing it, oh, dear God, just stop. I can't stand it. Last, for the regular members, let's go to J-Dog. When I listen to J-Dog, his verses with the raps are not really as good as the other guys are, but the one thing where J-Dog really shines here is when he's matched with another member of the band in a verse or in a chorus, and how his unclean vocals really play off of their clean vocals as well. Take a look at a song like Time Bomb. He is the unclean vocalist on the chorus where Danny is the clean vocalist, and that contrast works out spectacularly. He also mixes that same thing with Funny Man, where Funny Man is clean and J-Dog is unclean on their verse on Enemy, and it just works spectacularly with the contrast. He even does it to himself on Already Dead, and I thought, you know what? When you bring in that mixture and you let J-Dog contrast with someone else, oh man, does that work out well. When he's on himself, you know what? It's a little bit rough, but when he can contrast off of somebody else, oh man, is it good. Now, New Empires featured 2 guest spots on tracks, and I gotta talk about them. The first is Benji Madden of Good Charlotte that was featured on Second Chances, and he used the vocals on the pre-chorus on this one. And what I liked about his vocals in the pre-chorus was the verses were really soft, but the chorus was really emotionally strong and heavy from Danny. And his vocals in the pre-chorus from Benji Madden really transition those well, really bridge the gap well. And it's a good feature, don't get me wrong. However, the reason why I don't really, talk about it that much is because the other feature was so much better and shined so much brighter, and that is on the song Upside Down, where they had Kellen Quinn of Sleeping with Sirens. And this one worked spectacularly because when you had a little bit more of a rougher kind of calmer verses, and then you had Danny just going full force on the chorus, then you all of a sudden have Kellen Quinn come in on the bridge, and I'm like, oh my lord, it's the way the song was constructed, the mean of it, which I'll get to in a little bit. It just ends up amplifying everything about it, especially when you get to the bridge and you get that higher pitch Kellen Quinn vocals, even higher pitch than Danny. I mean, just the mixture of it and how it all builds to that bridge. Oh man, that just fantastic. Glad they put Kellen Quinn on that track. Now it's time to take a look at how the themes of the songs and how the stylings of how they put them together, how they work together in harmony, and how they make the album sound. And for a more consistent part of the album, I really did like how this works. So let's take a look at a song like Heart of the Champion, where taking a look at the meaning of this song, it was more like the band, kind of just setting up a diss track, basically, to kind of go after and say, hey, we have the heart of a champion because we made it, even though everyone else was trying to put us down, and they put that in their lyrics. And I really like the style they went with on this one, because you see Johnny Three Tears and Charlie just go hard on their verse and go right at it, and then Danny's chorus really kind of brings it out like, like we made it and we are through it, and I absolutely love what they did here. Upside Down is probably the best one overall on this track, because they talk about how your past and the bad things in your past, you can't change those, but you got to reflect on those and make sure that, you learn from them and use them to become a better person you are today. And I like how they build that up too, where the verses are a little bit softer and kind of explain a bit more, and then Danny's vocals just pop out there and just shine brightly. But it's Kellen Quinn's feature on the bridge which really shines through the brightest on this one, because Kellen Quinn wrote a whole album with this about how it feels to be lost. I mean, that was the album title, and just bringing him in on here and just having that range to a higher pitch vocals to really accept the fact that, that was your past, that happened, and now you're going to use it to become a better person. Absolutely love what they did on that one. Nightmare also was one I'm like, what? It's interesting, because when they kind of brought that Notes from the Underground style and they really kind of drew it back and just kind of went more emotional with it, they were talking about, what happened in your past, the things you've done wrong, and how you can't change them, and how you just got to push forward through them, and how your dreams of becoming famous and becoming the biggest, international stars in the world. I mean, they're not the biggest international stars in the world, but becoming international sensations within the music scene, how that can end up becoming a nightmare. And they really went with more of a deep sounding vibe to it, like they have done on Notes from the Underground. And those verses that J-Dog, Johnny Three Tears, and Charlie Scene all did on that one, fantastic move. And I love how the theme and the styling on that one really work well together. There are others that work well together, but those three just work fantastically together. All right, time for my overall rating of New Empires Volume 1 by Hollywood Undead, and that is... I'm going to give New Empires Volume 1 a 7 out of 10. So I'm giving New Empire a 7 out of 10, which actually kind of surprised me from when I first thought I was going to give it something lower. I'm like, you know what? This is pretty good. I'm liking this. So let's see. What did I like about it specifically? I like some of Danny's vocals, especially on the choruses, because there are instances where he just pops and shines and really shines through as the beacon of hope on a lot of these songs. Take a look at Time Bomb, where his chorus is mixed with the unclean styles of J-Dog and how they contrast together, and bringing all 5 members in the band onto that song. It just really worked well, and Danny was the pop on that one. Enemy, in my opinion, this might be his best vocal work for a long time, ever since, maybe Day of the Dead, or even from Notes from the Underground, because he doesn't go full force onto it, but he goes full force enough to where he's the highlight of the track, and even Kellen Quinn's vocals is even the bigger highlight of the track, but it lets Danny's vocals even have more impact overall, and they just play off each other incredibly well. And Second Chances, where this is where Danny just lets it all out completely, and you can really see his range as a vocalist, and it is the high point of the album, even as that transition from the verses to Benji Mann's pre-chorus to Danny's vocals in the chorus, just absolutely perfect. One of the other things I love about this one is the feature from Kellen Quinn, as I spoke about it earlier, when you mix that style of, just going through a lot of things and kind of keeping it hard, but then all of a sudden when you get to the breakdown and you get to Kellen Quinn's vocals, it just shows the power that Kellen Quinn's vocals has, and it just completely amplifies everything throughout the rest of that track. Plus, like I said earlier, when you're dealing with something about regret and making sure that you use your past and become and define yourself who you are today, Kellen Quinn is the perfect person for it, especially after writing the album How It Feels to Be Lost. I also liked how when the band talked about they were going to update and evolve some of their older styles into a newer sound, I liked how some of them ended up. Enemy is the perfect idea of this because they took that California Dreamin' sound they had on 5 and they kept the rappiness of it, but I think they even made it more honest and harder overall. I'm like, you know what? This was the perfect move. I love this song straight through. Nightmare is another one like that I spoke about earlier, where they kind of took that softer sound from Notes from the Underground and try to make something a little bit more deeper and darker and a little bit more personal. And I do like what they did here. I don't think they did as good of a job as they did on Notes from the Underground, but I do like the attempt, and I do think it's a bright spot on the album. And there are a couple of songs where all 5 guys are featured, and when all 5 guys are featured, they do a great job, like on Time Bomb and on Enemy, which might be one of their 10 best tracks of all time. Now time for what I dislike about New Empire Volume 1, and I thought at times they went with way too much electronic and auto-tune sounds, because when they did that, it really just gave the song a lot less of that Hollywood Undead feel. I spoke about it earlier to where they have used those in the past, and they have worked out rather well. However, when they went full force into them, it really drew back from the power of the song. It felt way too overproduced, felt way too different from a lot of stuff they've done, and just didn't feel like it was right overall on songs like Empire, and especially Killing It. I couldn't stand those songs, and I'm glad that, there are only 2 songs that are like that on a record, even though there are 9 tracks on it. I didn't think there was nearly enough Funny Man on this album as well, because as I spoke earlier, when he was in the verses, his style worked perfectly with whatever he was working with, whether it was him and J-Dog on a track, meshing with each other with the verses, or all together with a bunch of people, or even if it was just himself, it worked out incredibly well. His chorus on Killing It, we can easily forget about, but I wish they would have featured Funny Man more on tracks, especially in the verses, because he brought the heat on this one. And some of Danny's choruses I really couldn't stand. Nightmare is one of them where you're really going personal and very in-depth and deep with the verses, and the chorus, especially with we know what Danny can do with that powerful voice, it was so drawn back. It just really kind of was like, I get the move, but it just didn't work out in this track. And Empire, he's just saying, my empire, my empire. It really didn't sit well with me at all, because I know what he can do, and it just really flatlined. Now time for my final thought, and when I first started listening to the album, like when I went through the singles and then was getting the rest of the album, I was starting to get rather nervous, and this is because when I listened to the singles, I thought they were going to be taking some of the stuff that I really didn't like off of albums like Day of the Dead and 5. Even though I did like Day of the Dead, I was okay on 5. I thought they were taking the styles and evolving them, the ones that I really didn't care for, and putting them anew and putting them into this album. So I'm like, okay, now I'm getting nervous. However, as I listened to the rest of the album, especially as the album went on, I'm like, I was pleasantly surprised, and I was happy with a lot of stuff they did on songs like Heart of a Champion, on Enemy, and on Upside Down. They really took that classic Hollywood Undead style, and they did what they wanted to do. They wanted to take the old style, evolve it into something new, and create something that was going to be Hollywood Undead, but more updated for the time. And what they did, it was a little bit harder, it was still faster, but it had a more mature feel to it, and I really like what they did here. And the song does have some dud tracks like Empire and Killing It, but those fantastic tracks, like I said, Heart of a Champion, Enemy, and Upside Down, absolutely fantastic. This album is really good, and I cannot wait for Volume 2 to come out towards the end of 2020. This is going to be great for Hollywood Undead, and I can't wait to see them live. Woo! Alright folks, that's it for me. Thank you for watching the My Song Day Rock 2008 album review on New Empire Volume 1 by one of my favorite bands, Hollywood Undead. If you like the video, give me a like. If you dislike it, give me the dislike. But put in the comments below what you think about the album so we can talk and have a discussion about it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified when I release videos every single Wednesday, some special Monday ones, and anytime the Chord Progression podcast comes out on Tuesday. More on that later. So now let's get those out of here, and please follow us on social media. You can follow us on Facebook. Anytime anything gets released, from the 30-second Song of the Day feature on all our Facebook pages, Instagram, Twitter, wherever it might be. Anytime a YouTube video gets released or a podcast gets released, you'll find out about it there. Twitter, same thing, except Twitter, a lot easier to talk to us, go back and forth. That's what the platform is built for. Follow us on Instagram as well. That is our biggest platform. You're going to get the 30-second Song of the Day feature every single day. And they're going to do a couple other things as well, such as always talk to you guys, always ask you questions. You're going to get the podcast preview on those as well. But then we're also going to ask you a bunch of questions like, of this artist, what's your favorite album? Between these two artists, which one is your favorite? We're going to ask you stuff like that. We're going to get you to think. You can also join us every single Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Central for our Instagram live streams. It's an hour long, where you can come have a conversation with me, with everybody else on there. We can just have a great time and watch your IGTV videos come out every single Tuesday. And that's like a behind the scenes thing we're doing here, My Song of the Day. So you get a little bit, the inside knowledge. And TikTok as well. We just post some funny shit on there, but I haven't really done much there, so I got to get on that. Let's get those out of here and talk about the Chord Progression podcast. It is our very own podcast where we talk about all things music. We'll talk about the new albums that come out. We'll talk about the news in the music industry. I'll talk about the concerts I go to. But now specifically, we are very much getting into interviewing smaller bands and some bigger bands as well, to try and get to talk to them and bring you guys the greatness that is their music. Because, hey, we got big bands that are out there that are making waves today, but these are going to be the bands that are going to be making the waves in the next 5 to 10 years. So get in early on them as we talk about the Chord Progression podcast about what they've done, about who they are, and about where they're going to be going. So get excited for that. You can listen to the podcast every single Tuesday and sometimes the special ones, but you'll find out if you're following us on social media on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. And with those interviews, you can watch them right here on YouTube on the My Song Day Rock 2000 Day page. So hell yeah. Let's get that out of here. And if you're not enabled to our Amazon Alexa skill, what are you doing? Go enable that right now, because that is you can hear the whole entire Song of the Day feature for that day. Honestly, this is a great way to rediscover all that old rock and metal music that you absolutely love. Discover the new stuff that you're gonna love. And every single Saturday, we feature a small band on our thing called Small Band Saturday, so you can get in the know with the bands that are gonna be big coming up. So it's a great way to just kind of get back in the rock music fold. And I want to say thank you very much for watching this video and for enjoying the My Song Day Rock 2000 Day stuff. Absolutely love it. And guys, I'm getting more floored and ready to do this even more by the minute. So thank you guys. This is Kevin from the My Song Day Rock 2000 Day YouTube channel. You guys know I end the videos with the hat flip. Let's see if I got it. Nope, but see ya!